going to try something new and flip around right away. I don't think of what to show at the beginning. So welcome, replay viewers. I'm glad that you're here. And welcome to everyone who's joining. Thanks for coming in. Hi, Jody. It's good to have you. In case you are new, I am Melissa from MakerySpace.com, and I have a website where I educate and equip Etsy sellers in the more left-brained aspects of running their creative business. Hi, Tracy, right? And I like to get on Periscope and talk about that because it's fun to connect with you this way and to be able to chat. Hi, Patrice. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Hi, Kara. Preppy Creations. Can you remind me of your name? I'm trying to write these down. Although I'm a terrible happy day, Melissa. That's the safe way to do it, Patrice, and you won't get the wrong day of the week. I'm terrible about writing notes everywhere. I need to consolidate. Oh, yay, Wendy, you're in here. I'm answering your question. I'm glad you got to be here. Trying to consolidate my notes where I write down people's names, and I got to get them all in one place because I like to try to address you by name if I can. So Wendy, I was saved by the bell today because earlier I was thinking, okay, what am I going to talk about today? I hadn't made a specific plan, and then I got an email from Wendy asking a question. I'm like, sweet, she just gave me my topic, and it's a great one. So it's something I haven't talked about before. So I'm really glad that she submitted that. So remember, if you go to MakerySpace.com/scope and scroll down below the show notes, then you can find a box for submitting a question or a topic you'd like me to cover on Periscope, or you can just email me at melissa@makeryspace.com and ask it that way. And then I make sure that I'm covering things that you need to and want to know about. So today, Wendy's question asked a couple of specific things, but I thought, well, this would be good to cover in general some best practices for selling in person. So when I get to the parts of Wendy's questions, I'll read those out loud, but there's a couple things I want to cover first. So if you have the opportunity to sell in person, obviously if it's someone you know, then no problem if they're going to come by your house, or you take it to them. Maybe it's someone you know from a mom's group or from church or from work or whatever, and you're just going to bring it to them. However, I would recommend that if you do not know the person, or it's not like a friend of a friend, you might feel comfortable enough if it's, your friend's sister-in-law or your friend's friend that her child goes to school with or whatever. You can kind of gauge that. But if it's not someone you know at all, but someone that maybe found your shop and noticed they live in the same city as you or the same area and they want to pick it up, I would not recommend that you do that at your house for a couple of reasons. First of all, there can be issues with local laws as far as home businesses. I know in my city there is that you have to say when you apply whether or not you're going to have foot traffic to your shop, even though it's in your house. And there can be a problem. They can either have to pay more, or you could not be zoned for it and they won't give you your license. So you got to be really careful that you're not having people routinely pick some stuff up, orders up from your house, because that could be an issue. But also just for the safety factor. And unfortunately, we live in a world where we have to think about that. I used to do Craigslist transactions and have people come pick up from my house, and I don't do that anymore either. We've got a fire station that's pretty close to our house, like within 1 minute, and so that is my meeting place, is right on the block, on the street next to the fire station, because I feel pretty comfortable going there because of the type of facility it is. But anything that's where you're not going to have to drive too far, but that you would feel close, that you would feel safe. How much do you have to sell to be considered a home business? If the IRS considers you to be a business if you are in it to make a profit. So even if you make a loss the first year, first 2 years, if you are conducting it because you want to make a profit and it's not just a hobby where you're only making enough to pay for your supplies, then the IRS considers you a business. So there's something, you can get more information about that on the IRS's website. A lot of people think that there's this income amount that you have to make to go from a hobby to a business, but that is not true. It is the way that you're conducting your business is mostly what the IRS looks at. So if you have a shop and you are selling things and you're collecting sales tax, you're a business, even if you're not making a bunch of money. So that's the first thing, is where to do the exchange that you need to think through for local sales. Obviously, if it's a craft fair, farmer's market or whatever, that's, your location's already taken care of for you. So the next thing to consider is how you're going to package your stuff. So that's one of the questions Wendy had. She said she usually wraps her orders in tissue and with a ribbon and then secures it with one of her stickers that has her logo on it, which is, of course, it's nice packaging for when you're going to mail that to a buyer who has purchased it online. But sometimes when you sell it in person, if you're not at a craft fair or something where they've already been able to handle it and you're just meeting them, you may want to leave it unwrapped, or at least in packaging that can be easily opened so that they don't feel weird. I mean, I would want to see the item probably before I left or handed over my money. So you want to make it so they wouldn't feel awkward actually looking at the item before they give you your money, before they leave. So that's another suggestion that I would recommend, bringing it unwrapped, or maybe just in a gift bag or something like that that's really easy to pull out and look at. Now, and the last question that, another thing is, I would really recommend that you create an invoice. You can do that through most bookkeeping programs. QuickBooks has a way to create invoices. GoDaddy Bookkeeping, which is what I use, has a way. Oops, I just froze for a second. Get a receipt, essentially, via that invoice that shows the amount. And do not forget, if you're doing local sales, to charge sales tax. If it's something that, they didn't buy through your shop on Etsy where the sales tax was added in and you're creating an invoice, you need to make sure that you figure that in to their total before you give them the amount that they owe you. So the other thing that Wendy wanted to know about is, how do you handle doing this through Etsy? She said, I love local deliveries because I can skip the online fees, but I don't want to leave the listing in Etsy since it's sold. Should I use the Sell Now on the app? Should I deactivate the listing? At what point does Etsy charge me on the sale, and is this based on the selling price or the listing price? Like if I add a discount at Sell Now. So these are great questions. So if you have the app on your phone, you can use it to do local sales even if you don't have the card reader. I don't know if everybody knows that. The only requirements to actually use the app are that you have to be a U.S. seller, you have to have direct checkout enabled in your shop, and you have to have the app, and that is iOS 7 or higher and Android 4 or higher are the minimums for being able to use the Sell on Etsy app. So if you use the Sell on Etsy app to do a local sale, there are never any transaction fees. So the 3.5% that normally would be charged if someone purchases through your shop is never charged on the Sell on Etsy app, regardless of whether you have someone pay in cash or check, whether they pay because you swipe their credit card, whether it's a listing already in your shop, or you add it as a quick listing and sell it from there. Regardless of the circumstances, if you sell locally through the app and do an in-person sale, there's never the 3.5% transaction fee. Now, if you sell from your inventory, there, of course, was the 20-cent listing fee when you listed it. Or if you sell it and there's more than one available, there'll be the 20-cent renewal fee afterwards. Okay, so that will always be there if you're selling from your inventory. Now, if the person pays by cash or check, you're not going to have a payment processing fee. So if I had someone who was purchasing something from my shop, someone I knew locally, they were going to pay me in cash. I could process it through the app, and the only thing I would be paying is that 20 cents that I paid when I listed it. That would be my only fees. And then that sale will make my sales number increase. Okay? So that's how the fees work. Now, if they do need to use a credit card or a debit card, if you swipe it, if you have the Etsy card reader and swipe it, the payment processing fee is less. It's 2.75%. And then it's just a flat rate. There's none of that fixed like 25 cents or 30 cents like PayPal has. Just 2.75%. If you don't have the card reader, you can still accept credit cards and debit cards. You just have to enter them manually, and the fee is a little bit higher, but it's the same as direct checkout. If someone were to order from your shop, so it's the 3%, this is for U.S. sellers, 3% plus 25 cents. And the reason it's more is because there's a little bit more liability involved when you manually enter a credit card number versus when you swipe it. Okay? So the only time you're going to pay fees is when you sell in person, is if you accept a credit or debit card and have the payment processing fees. And then the 20-cent listing fee if you're selling it from your inventory. Now, you don't have to have something already in your inventory to use the app to sell in person. You can do what's called a quick listing, where you just put the information in. You put in, I haven't done it this way, but I think maybe you put a little description, you put in the price, and then you can accept the payment. And so that will still increase your sales. But the only way someone can leave a review is if you sell from your inventory and that person already has an Etsy account, and you send the receipt to that email address that's connected with their Etsy account. So if I sell to a friend who is already an Etsy buyer and I send the receipt there, then she can leave me a review later on that item if I had it in my inventory. If it's something that I just made up for her and I never listed in my shop, then I can still create it in the app, that quick listing, and sell it to her and accept payment, and it will increase my sales, but she won't be able to leave a review because it was not in my inventory. Is that clear as mud? I know it can be a little bit confusing. You can also sell from your history. So let's say you have something in your sold items that's not active in your shop right now, but you make another one for someone. You can sell from your history. I don't think that they can leave a review for that either, though. I believe it has to be an active listing in your shop in order for the buyer to be able to leave a review afterwards. Okay? Does that make sense? I know there's so many different facets to it, but really I would encourage you, even if you're doing a craft fair, if you can, especially if you have a helper with you, try to process those through the app, because then if you have 50 sales at a craft fair, then you can boost your sales number by 50, and that's kind of nice to be able to do. And then it's really straightforward to accept payment. So I hear people asking sometimes, I'm going to do a craft fair. Should I use Square, or should I use PayPal card reader, or should I use Etsy card reader? And my answer is always use the Etsy card reader, because the fees are really, really similar across the board. And those other methods are not going to get your sales number in your shop increased. And they're not going to allow the person to leave a review in any of those situations. Another question I hear a lot about the Etsy card reader is it a chip reader? And are they going to have one coming out? They have no plans to create a chip reader, but they are absorbing the liability in the cases of fraud, because they are the merchant on record. Now, if you use the PayPal card reader or the Square card reader and you have not upgraded to the chip reader and you're using the swipe ones, you are responsible in the case of fraud. You are the merchant on record. In the case of Etsy's, they are the merchant on record. So it's like we're kind of a representative of the merchant on record. So that is what happens. If you want to do PayPal or Square, I really recommend that you upgrade to the chip reader if you're going to use it at a craft fair, so that you reduce your liability. But with Etsy, it doesn't matter, because they will, if there's a fraud, you are not going to be the one that's responsible for taking care of that. They will take care of that. Okay? And I think there's sometimes a line for that card reader. I hear that people saying that they applied for it and haven't gotten it, and there's a wait. So I'm not really sure what that is currently. Any questions about local sales, or any other tips that you want to add that you have found is something that you've learned, or something that has been helpful when you sell in person? Okay. Wendy, I hope those answered your questions. And tomorrow I'll be back here for Q&A. Bring any random questions that you have. I'll share one or two other things that I've learned about the new shop design tomorrow as well. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will talk to you again tomorrow morning.